Exactly. Welcome to two-thirds of us talking the history of Marvel Cosmic. I'm very excited to be doing this panel. My name is John Siuntres. I host a podcast called Word Balloon. It's at wordballoon.com, where I get to, when there aren't conventions, have the same kind of conversations we're about to have today. So I'm very excited to present Roy Thomas. And let me tell you about Roy for a second. I'm sure you already know, but Roy's a legendary comic book writer and editor who was Stan Lee's first successor as editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics. He's known for co-creating some of Comics Wave's characters, such as Wolverine, Carol Danvers, Morbius, The Vision, Iron Fist, and Ultron. He also introduced the pulp magazine heroes Conan and Red Sonja, along with the sci-fi fantasy Star Wars to Marvel. Roy's had lengthy writing stints on Marvel's X-Men and Adventures, at DC Comics All-Star Squadron and Infinity Incorporated. Among many other titles, books, and a couple of movies, he was inducted into the Will Eisner Comic Book Hall of Fame in 2011 and currently edits the comic history magazine Alter Ego and works with Stan Lee on the Spider-Man newspaper strip. Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Rascally Roy. Page 10. No, but that's the kind of career you've had.
We're over to space till when Jim Starlin gets here, we'll stop.
Absolutely, yes. Jim will be joining us, and
we'll tell you all the real stuff about him until he gets here.
Oh, there he is. Excellent. Excellent. Another important role is not only Marvel's cosmic world, but DC's cosmic world as well. The creator of Thanos, the Infinity Gauntlet, so many other great creations. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Starlin. Now I'm recording the audio for the people who aren't watching this. John Siuntres, who is Roy's guy, brought up this wonderful bust of Thanos, and Jim Starlin, who made that bust?
Long time ago, yes.
Oh, okay, he did.
Jim was it 73, 74?
Somewhere around the time I was in Warlock, I think we did this little bust up.
Yeah, I think probably 74.
I was out in California, so it would have been around 72 or 73.
Oh, you weren't there in New York at the time?
I think I did it in I did it in California, and then brought them back. I came back shortly.
Because I had a feeling I got it from you in person.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I brought some back, and there's a bronze one of this. There's two bronzes running around also.
And I just got this.
This was Hyperscope.
Hyperscope.
Hyperscope doesn't exactly do impact really well.
Well, we mentioned that when Jim gave this to me, it's got a number under it. It's number 100 or something like this.
Oh, it was.
And Jim Starlin, Ralph Macchio told me the other day, he has one of them.
Okay.
But what happened is Jim gave me this. I was really flattered. I didn't know anybody else had one, but anyway, I got one. And so I thought I'm going to really protect it. So it was starting to rain outside on New York, Madison Avenue. So I go out and I get really lucky. I hail a cab, just to start to kind of drizzle. I think I'm going to get this home instead of going to the subway or something to protect it. So I'm going to get in. So I hail a cab. Cab pulls over. I get in and knock off one of the little ears or whatever, of the mask on it, so it fell down the New York street with the rain, so I couldn't retrieve it. So I put it protected. So I said 43, 44 years, sitting there, on top of a mantle or whatever, I was in my office there somewhere. And just now when we were dragging it around, the other thing out here fell off. But this one we have, so we'll be able to glue that back on as soon as we get out to California and everything.
It's the nature of being an editor.
Yeah. I should find some little rock outside and stick that on it so we can that.
Jim, have you done other sculpts of things you've created?
Not too much. Nothing has survived.
Okay.
It was a spell I was going to in California, so the people liked it, and they did me a bronze cast and kept for themselves. And strangely enough, this particular ear on bronze cast, there's a little bit of decay on it. So.
Yes, this version or all?
On the bronze version, there's a little bit of decay on it that I haven't been able to get off.
Wow.
Okay, back on to something.
Okay,
we're here for.
This is the first time I think this is, I don't know if ever been exhibited because I started.
I got to take a picture of it before you take it away. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
We had a picture taken this morning while it still had 1 year in.
Well, and we're here to talk about the history of Marvel Cosmic, which you can obviously argue began with Fantastic Four #1, because it was a space shot that gave the Four their powers. So,
Suborbital cosmic.
Cosmic rays. What are they? We don't know. We just call them cosmic rays. But Roy, I asked Jim this last time when we were talking about the Infinity Gauntlet. I wondered if, as you guys were creating sci-fi stuff, how much of the zeitgeist of not only space exploration from a NASA standpoint, but also I was a little kid when Chariots of the Gods and Eric von Daniken's theories came out, and it really seemed like that was kind of exploding all over the place. And I don't know how much that influenced what you guys did, and you specifically in your writings, of any of those cave drawings and that speculation that, the pyramids were created by aliens and...
Well, you may have been a little kid when Von Daniken, Chariots of the Gods, question mark. But, I was an adult already, so it didn't influence my comics writing very much, except that I came up with a story like that called Band Gods Beyond the Stars. I actually ended up having Doug Munch write the story for one of those black and white books. And pleased with that, and we were thinking of making that a series. It didn't become one, but we did that, and Alex Nino did a wonderful job in drawing it. So I was very interested in that and liked to do, things with it. I never believed it, particularly. It might be true, it might not be. But it's an interesting speculation. But I was always a science fiction fan from, a kid, whatever there was. I was an early member of the science fiction book club from at least the middle 50s or something like this. When I was 13, 14 years old. I remember, in fact, one of the first books I had was This Island Earth. I didn't like the movie version of it, but the book version by Raymond Jones, which became, partly the inspiration, or one of the main inspirations for the Kree Skrull War. The idea that Earth is this little, like a Pacific island in World War II with these two big powers battling it out, and they're just a little island and so forth. And that's why the first chapter of this Kree Skrull War, when Neil and I got into the main part, it became This Battleground Earth. I was doing parodies of all these works, but I read a lot of science fiction, and I liked, whether it was low level or the cosmic stuff, I liked it all.
Let's get into the Kree Skrull War, because obviously that's one of the great epic stories.
It was a way station on the way to what Jim a couple of minutes further.
Absolutely.
I was actually reading them while I was in the service.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's
I was
fantastic.
getting subscriptions through the mail, and in fact, I got a subscription to Captain Marvel, and it got canceled, and I ended up, Captain Marvel and one other book, I forget, and they both got canceled, and they were replaced by 2 subscriptions to the X-Men.
But you got it twice.
I got it twice a month. The first bad dealings I had with Marvel.
That's surely the last, right?
Well, yeah.
Wow, that's insane.
It's been smooth ever since.
Roy, were you editor writer when you were doing the Kree Skrull, or was it Stan? I mean, who greenlit the Kree Skrull War?
Well, Stan greenlit it because the thing is, he had created with Jack the Kree. I mean, the Skrulls with Fantastic Four #2 was pretty old, but the Kree were pretty new. They'd only been introduced in the Fantastic Four a few months before.
Okay.
He had done just those 2 or 3 stories with Jack. I'm not trying to cut Jack out. Jack obviously did a lot of the plotting and creating that too. I don't even know which of the 2 of them came up with a particular name, or whatever. But it suddenly occurred to me once he had those, even though there had been a couple of other interstellar races in this story or that, but obviously something in the Fantastic Four, like the Skrulls, the Kree. And I went to Stan, I said, that we got these 2 races right here. If you don't have any plans to do anything more with them, you were still writing Fantastic Four, so you could have. I said, I'd like to, have them have a war, and Earth was just like caught in the middle. And he said, Stan made that great. Sounds good to me, that was about it. That was it. I wasn't officially the editor or anything like that, but Stan, didn't really, we just generally I would go in and give them
Their editorship must have been only months away at that.
It was close.
Yeah,
It was pretty close.
Okay, yeah, that's why I wasn't sure about the time.
Yeah.
It is this incredible epic. It's, again, I even think the start with Captain Marvel was such a great character. I love the fact, too, that Marvel just kind of, had that name was out there and nobody was using it. You know, Fawcett had stopped publishing
Yeah.
the original Captain Marvel, and then he comes along, a very different character,
Yeah.
and again representing the Creed.
Well, Stan has this illusion that he wanted to do the Captain Marvel character. I happen to know that that isn't true. I mean, he believes it. He just doesn't remember. But in '67, Martin Goodman, somebody came to Martin. Stan remembered this at the time because he told it to a couple of college things. But Martin Goodman, the publisher, was approached by somebody who wanted to. He said, if you could use the name Captain Marvel and do a comic about it, I could make it into a TV show. And he wanted it to be science fiction. That's why he has that space. I didn't know all those details, some of them until later. I just know that Stan told me, Martin Goodman wants me to do a character called Captain Marvel. He didn't mention anything about the TV show. I learned that later. And he said, I don't really want to do it because he said, Captain Marvel, it's not like Daredevil. Captain Marvel was still so well known. I mean, I took the cab in New York City in the 60s. The cabbie was saying, I mentioned for Marvel Comics, he said, oh yeah, I love Captain Marvel.
Well, Cobra was doing Shazam on Cobra too.
Yeah, right. It was in the culture. Of course, they still had an awful comic book that Myra Fast did, and the lawsuit over that would go into that.
Where his body would split into different, yeah.
Unfortunately, got back together again. And so Stan had to do it, and you could tell they didn't want to do it, but not only was it a shorter story, it was like 13, 14 pages, but by the second issue, he just dumped it in my lap with no directions at all, just here it is, take it, and luckily I, was, enjoying, but I made a terrible mistake on Captain Marvel because I suggested several color schemes for that costume, and unfortunately one of them was white and green, and that was one of my great mistakes. But to make it up, I was the one who got them to put the Saturn type of planet, Jim Cohen, they put it without, and you gotta have a chest symbol there, so I got that. But then I negated the green and white. You didn't like it either, right?
No, I just remember Gene didn't like it all that much.
None of us liked it. I didn't like it. It was my idea. I don't know where I did it. As soon as I could, we got back to primary colors,
Sure.
When Gil and I did it a couple of years later. But, nobody's perfect.
Well, that's an excuse to obviously talk about Jim's evolution with the character then.
Well, it was, I don't know if you remember, but you gave me Captain Marvel when it was on its death row.
Was it me or Stan?
No, you gave it to me. Stan fired me off Iron Man a month or so before because you had us do, you said, get these guys off there. And because we did the funny.
I really liked your work from the beginning. He's what really hired you anymore, isn't he? Or is he?
No, you hired me basically. Stan was.
If he hadn't, I would.
But Stan saw the issue of Iron Man that Gerber and I did, which was funny after 54, it was 55, I guess.
Yeah.
And he said, I hate it, get these guys off the book.
Really?
And you actually apologized to me at the point saying, I'm sorry this is happening, but I got another job for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, this is probably not going to last because it's on its death throes. Because you had two
You're getting a great welcome to Marvel. Stan, that's great.
Yeah, and you said, well, find you something else afterwards. And I immediately got into Captain Marvel and the sales went up. And you kept trying to get me off it. You wanted me to do the Thing book, the Thing team book.
Yeah, which you did.
Which we did a couple of times. I said, I want to go back to Captain Marvel. Come on, stay with me. And then she wanted me to stay with Shang-Chi, but I still wanted to get Captain Marvel.
You and Steve only did a few issues of
I found out who Fu Manchu was.
Oh, okay.
That's
my
I had never read it.
Okay.
Well, that was Stan's fault. He bought that.
No, I did. That's all mine.
I didn't Stan all these years.
No, it's all mine, and I'm proud. But anyway, we won't talk about that. That's for the Fu Manchu.
Next panel.
But, it just was a lot of fun, and, you were talking about not dining, and that was never ends in my radar. Mine was always Wheels on the Right, or Carlos Castaneda, or any of that stuff I was reading.
Yeah, Lucas was big on Carlos Castaneda.
Yeah.
I did one of my only plotting sessions with him. He talked to me about Carlos Castaneda, and he curled up a little fetal ball on the ground, rolling around, explaining something. To me, it was just gibberish, but it's great for fiction. I got the idea of fiction. You don't have to believe in it, but it was a great starting point.
Yeah, my belief is kind of tentative based on that, but it was great material to work with, and between, it was always more the philosophy rather than the science. I always thought it was more interesting in doing stories, so, like Captain Marvel went from being a warrior to being a holy man, and then we did Warlock afterwards, and he was a holy man to start off with, so.
I can take the theme here.
Yeah, so the paranoid schizophrenic suicidal was the only place to go with him.
So you went.
Have fun.
Well, I All right, well, first of all, shame on me, because as you mentioned your Iron Man run, we talked a little bit about it last night with the Infinity Gauntlet, Jim, the creation of Thanos that came in Iron Man. And, you know, I don't, for the people that, I don't know, who was here last night? About half. I mean, I think a third. So yeah, tell us about So tell us about creating Thanos and who's become such a.
Well, basically, it was a psych class I took in community college after I got out of the service. VA, you know, was going to take advantage of that. Guest lecturer came in and talked about the Freudian concepts of Eros and Thanos, the lighter and darker side of human nature. I latched onto the darker side and only recently played with the lighter side a little bit. Did some sample drawings up, brought them up, and you hired me to work at Marvel.
Did you have 2 or 3 characters at the same time?
I had Thanos. I had a strange version of the Destroyer. Which you said we need another name.
Well, yeah, with the Drax thing, that took care of that.
Yeah. So we just came up with that one, and but he was in among the things, and yeah, I think it was Mentor Heroes, Drax, and Thanos. And Thanos looks really like Mentor from.
He's thinner.
Oh, he was much thinner.
Yeah.
And you said, "Blow the money."
Yeah.
Immediately.
At least I have some good ideas.
Then DC and Marvel, DC's Dark Side and Thanos over the years kept inflating.
Yeah.
And I didn't really think the whole expansion of their physique gave more the idea that they were the same characters.
Yeah, which they
Even
were.
though if any of the characters of Kirby I was ripping off was Mentor.
Yeah.
But you know.
Well, somebody told me that they thought that the Thanos you did, that it had, was there really intended to be a vampiric feel to it, vampiric, or is that just somebody's interpretation of what Thanos was originally?
Well, his 2 henchmen were the Blood Brothers, which were.
That would help.
That may have given that impression.
Yeah. The thing, and the other thing I like, besides the general mechanism, just if he'd be good, he'd be a good character. I was thinking of, I'd seen Dark Side, but there was also Doctor Doom, just that feeling of the massive characters, just how I feel. One of the things that I particularly like is the name Thanos. Because as soon as I saw the name Thanos, as this expression goes, you had me at Thanos, because I love the name, and I thought that the idea that, we weren't going to let a name like Thanos get away. That's a perfect name for a character.
Yeah, it's funny because recently I've been getting a lot of web articles saying that Thanos is a misspelling of Thanatos.
Yeah,
and Jim Starlin can't spell. But the truth was that, do you remember the Greek restaurants in the 70s, all the Thanatos?
Yeah.
I had 1 or 2 blocks out of the house for me. And they said, you can't spell, I went past the damn thing every day.
There was Thanos, and there was I don't remember the American poet who wrote Thanatopsis is a poem, so I was aware.
Which makes more sense than naming the restaurant Thanatos.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't seem like
it's like you're going into business, let's not argue anything that isn't fresh.
I will guarantee you a little bit of botulism with every single.
You and Stan basically had a good relationship, except that you kept having John Romita redraw your faces or something like that.
That was John more. John is more
anticipated.
What Stan wanted.
Yeah, anticipatory, really. Yeah.
Well, Stan and I started off doing the cover sketches for other artists to do. So every morning I would come in and I would do a sketch up from the Xerox of an issue of a book. Then I would come in and take him in to Stan in the afternoon when he showed up, and he'd go, perfect, except. And then he would get up on the desk and he would act out. You remember how he did this?
Yeah.
He would act out how he wanted the pose to be.
You got that for me.
And how often did he sit on his glasses afterwards? He used to do that with me regularly.
I still have to ask you a question. What was it? Because I don't remember this. What was it? Did you get any idea what was he didn't like about your Iron Man, particularly? Because it looked.
Oh, it was funny. Oh, you really thought we were disrespectful to his character.
Oh, but it was drawn like an adventure comic.
Yeah, but Gerber and I had.
Well, Gerber, you're weird. Gerber was weird.
Sam later on got mad at me about a Nick Fury story that Howard Chaykin and I did. I think this was after you were gone. And he sent out a memo to everybody saying that this story should never be referenced anywhere in the Marvel Universe ever again.
What was it you had done that he didn't like?
He was embezzling money for a formula that would keep him young.
Oh, yeah, well.
Yeah, well, a little miscalculation of my part. Not the first time.
I can't tell you how much I love being a fly on the wall and hearing these kinds of stories. This is exactly what I was hoping for with these kinds of panels. The visual evolution of Captain Marvel to the more recognizable costume and everything. What, you know, because as you guys said, I like the original.
Well, Jim has done that, and if he had done it in different colors, it might have worked a little better, but I made that mistake. But somehow, then one day, it just wasn't going anywhere. I'd written, got off it, art break was writing it, and so forth, changed artists, you know, John Hector, just wasn't going anywhere, and I think the color scheme wasn't helping him. And somehow, you know, and one day, I don't remember if it was a weekend, but I woke up at home one of the days I was in my apartment, one of the days I was working, you know, at home, I was supposed to go to the office, and I suddenly had this idea that we had to do something with Captain Marvel, and I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to swipe Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel, which I love as a character. That was magic. This is sort of low-level science fiction. So I called up Stan. We had just given the book to Archie Goodman and everything to try to, you know, because I felt he'd do a good job with it. And I called up Stan, and I said, I'll give, you know, I got an idea. I said, of course, this is weird because I didn't have the right to do this. I'm working for Stan. I said, I'll give you, I had this idea for Captain Marvel, but I'll only tell it to you if I can write, you know. And so I told it to him. I don't think I went too much into the idea that it was really ripping off the old boss of Captain Marvel. I just gave him the story without it and assumed he would have forgotten, you know, Captain Marvel. And he said, that's great, all right. So we gave Archie something else. So I saw Archie coming into the building, grabbed the page, and we changed a few drawings in Archie's last story to get the costume in there because it worked out. And then it was sent off to Don Heck, and that was all fine. It was all going to be fine. I was going to try to write it. Then Gil Kane comes waltzing in and tells not me, but Stan, because I didn't really know that, we sort of had a nod and acquaintance Gil and I over the years. And he told Stan, I would like to do Captain Marvel. I don't think he called Stan my boy like he did everybody else. He's not the only people. He said, I'd like to do Captain Marvel. That book is going nowhere. Well, he had that right. And he says, I'd just like to do it. So he says, well, you know, Roy's in charge of that. See what he thinks. So I said, that's great. So just as I yanked the thing away from Archie, now we yanked the plot back from Don Heck, gave him something else to do. He didn't lose a dime on it. Didn't care one way or the other, really. And gave it to Gil. And Gil, I think he had Roger Brand. And you know Roger Underground, but he was an assistant at that time. He broke it down. Gil really loved the story. Saw what I was doing and did it wonderfully. And from that time on, we became, you know, collaborators, whatever we could, you know, Iron Fist, Warlock, and stuff like that. We became good friends. And it all sort of grew out of the Captain Marvel collaboration. And it was doing pretty well and everything, but eventually, you know, it was like canceled and brought back about twice in those 5 issues Gil and I did together. And then I had to leave it, so when it came back a little later, the second time, gave it to like Mark Wolfman and Wayne Bohr, you know, the Superman artist. I thought it would be funny if the second Superman artist ended up drawing Captain Marvel. That was just my humor. And so Mark Wolfman read it, and a little bit it ran through, and then Jim wandered into it, and he had to work his words on it. Yeah, there are a couple issues there. Yeah. So you can tell about how you took it.
Basically, I already have. You said we have this book that's rapidly dying. You got your early sales reports on the Wolfman boring ones, and it was lowered. You had just expanded out. I think you had 5 new books, and this was way at the bottom. And so you said, do this, and we'll do it. You know, I'll find some, once this book gets canceled, I'll find you something else. And it never got canceled, so I just stayed with it until we went on to work.
Why did you know, was it when I was still editor, did you change the color from the white that Gil had wanted to blonde?
Oh, you suggested that.
I did?
Yes, you said,
I wasn't drinking that much in those days. I didn't like that.
You know, you suggested it because you thought we'd bring in younger readers.
Blonde hair will bring in younger readers.
Why did you guys take the mustache off Master Cake Food? Remember when you brought the drawing in, you had a little mustache. I said, lose the mustache.
Yeah, we had that.
So I guess I had that.
Well, Stan didn't want it.
Then I had to give him freckles too. Well, I mean, you know, make it younger or something. You know.
Yeah, I remember Stan didn't like any of the Asian faces.
Well, interesting.
Yeah, so that's why we ended up making him Eurasian. And a lot of that had to do with the quality of my drawing at that time.
Oh, I think it was fine.
Well, I thought it didn't. Looking back at him, I think I think maybe it was best to go with the face design, costume design. Basically, the blonde hair was, I was going to do all these changes in them at that point. You suggested the blonde hair for the younger thing. So I just tossed it in. It was kind of a nice little bit because at one point he goes, without looking in the mirror, goes, oh, I have this blonde hair now.
You just Googled it.
Yeah,
Was it my suggestion, or was it a good idea to swipe Steve Ditko's Captain Adam trail? You know, he had Captain Adam with the little atomy or bubbly things coming after him, which in my mind was like Ditko's Captain Adam and I had one from the late 50s.
Yeah,
But
I love it too.
I don't know if mine
remember which one of us
It
suggested.
doesn't matter.
Plagiarism, whichever.
Yeah, we swiped it, whatever, it wasn't like it was irony. Of course, then we swiped Captain Mark, we swiped Captain Adam, we swiped Fu Manchu, we never made anything up,
That's awesome.
We just moved it out.
That's
I don't
amazing.
think there's anything really original, almost in life, period. Everything else has been done at some point or another.
Yeah, it's all synthesis,
Yeah,
cultural, whatever.
change it around. Everybody's got two eyes. The
Yeah.
first one character who has three, is that the original one?
Yeah.
Now, I've got a ton of key moments to talk about, but I also want to open up to you guys and women. So if you do have questions, start, and then I'll even happy to take them now. I don't know. And if not, I'm ready to go to something. All right, gentlemen in the back, yes, sir. Yeah, Jedi.
Loudly, please.
Wow.
I'll interpret it for you too.
All right, so with the advent of the Kree-Skrull War, do you think Marvel Comics overall became more cosmic? I mean, Claremont was introducing the Shi'ars, the X-Men. Do you think that basically one introduction of a larger cosmic scale within Marvel Universe affected?
I think it probably had some influence, but on the other hand, it was just continuing on the road that was already been taken. The Kree had just come in, that was opening things up, you had the Skrulls already, and it was just, you're looking for new material. Now once I did, then somebody else could look at the Kree-Skrull War and say, I can take it one step further, or one step this way or that, or even not even think about the Kree-Skrull War, but just have his own ideas. It's just a natural evolution, you have to take something somewhere. I think it was influential, but if it hadn't happened, something else probably, would have. And of course, now with the Kree-Skrull War, I never want to mention it without saying that, John was one of the best artists ever in comics. His brother Sal was pretty good too, and he did the early issues where we established the Captain Marvel connection. But of course, as I would be the second to tell you, the important artist that came on the book, that book was Neil Adams, and he came on and took a step, upward. And you know why I'm the second person to say that.
I'm glad you guys are mentioning them.
But I'm right.
No, and truly an epic story, and I'm glad you mentioned Gil as well. Jim, I want to get into the death of Captain Marvel, but before I do, who do you guys think were, and Jim, certainly your art was among those great cosmic artists and stuff, but who were the great Marvel cosmic artists that really understood the scope of space?
Kirby.
And, well, certainly, of course.
He's the architect.
The name above the title, absolutely. But then, as you say, Gil Kane and everything, but yeah, others beyond the greatness of Jack Kirby, of course.
Yeah, there were beautiful jobs that a number of these other artists you mentioned along the way. The cosmic stuff, the space stuff, you get tired of robbing bank stories and I've got a bomb I'm going to blow up the city with. It was good to get out of off Earth. We had the Silver Surfer who was stuck on Earth for the longest time. And I think it was you finally freed him up. No, maybe it was later. I think it was later on. Yeah, and so he should have been out there from the beginning, but we just.
Well, Stan kind of wanted, I think Stan wanted to keep him earthbound for a while, because to keep it down there, but then on the walk, but then as you start expanding, he's been on Earth for a long time, maybe it's time for him to go back into space, where he.
Everything has to change.
And as far as if you talk about cosmic people at Marvel, if the first person was Jack Kirby, the second most important one, for the sake of, of the history of it, would be Jim, really.
I would agree, absolutely.
With all the respect for John Siuntres, the next real step would be you.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have been there without Steve Ditko
Yeah.
as Dr. Strange as well, anyway, so.
Yeah, you know, Doctor Strange isn't science fiction, but it has that same.
But it has that feel, and that thought occurred to me as well, because it was more the astral plane. But again, there is that kind of sci-fi kind of, you know.
Yeah. Well, Jim's the guy that mixed them all up, though. By the time he was done, you couldn't tell what was magic and what was science. The rest of them had to compartment. With Jim, it's like sort of a stew, you know.
I hear you, man.
That's because I have a hard time telling what's real and what's not real.
We're good company here.
Jim, I remember when The Death of Captain Marvel came out, and it was this graphic novel event. And it really was. It was, forgive me for making it a personal story, but man, you know, we had the direct market then, and it really did feel like an important book. And I know, obviously, you talked about it last night, and if you don't mind today, talking about the personal side of the story as well.
Okay, my own father had passed away the year before from cancer, so it was percolating around inside me, and Jim Shooter asked me to kill off Captain Marvel because they didn't know what to do with him and they wanted to make him a woman. Sounded reasonable to me. So I came up with at least 3 or 4 plots before I finally settled on this one, and they were all the standard hero dies in a blaze of glory at the end of it, and I really didn't want to have to draw those stories. And so somewhere along the line, the connection was made. Unlike when you were the editor, Jim Shooter had a bunch of assistant editors. So I sent the plot in, and every one of the assistant editors loathed it. They simply hated it. And the only person who liked it up there was Shooter, and he gave me the green light, and I guess he made the right decision because it sold pretty well.
Incredible book, absolutely. And I'm glad we mentioned the fact that obviously then the powers turned to Ms. Marvel, who became, of course, currently Captain Marvel, and it's been a wonderful evolution of the character. Carol Danvers started in your hands, Roy, and tell us about the beginnings of Carol Danvers.
God, I hardly remember. You know, Stan dumped this book in my lap, and it was set at this place called the Cape, which, you know, we all knew was really the Cape Canaveral. And for some reason, Stan didn't want these exact names. It became the Cape, and the guy in charge, you'd think he'd have to call General something, he's the old man or something. I don't know why Stan had one of these vague names, but then eventually, so I don't remember if Stan had the idea for a woman head of security, or if it was mine, or we needed a woman there anyway. At least one. We had Medic Una or whatever it was on the space thing, and so I just made up a character to be I don't think she had a last name at first. It was just Carol. When I finally had to have a name, I was looking for a last name, and somehow or other I settled on Danvers, which only later I realized is also the last name of the adopted name of Supergirl. Right?
Of course, yes.
I had no conscious memory of that, or I would definitely not have used that name, but it's just a last name anyway. And she was just an in and out character. I never thought of her as having any great destiny. And the next thing you know, she became, Ms.
Marvel.
What was the other name she had in between? That wasn't Nova, it was Binary.
Binary, I forgot
And now
about
she's been
that.
promoted to captain, so she'll be General Marvel, and President Marvel and all that.
Well, Kelly Sue DeConnick took the ball and ran with it, and certainly, created the modern Captain Marvel as Carol Danvers and stuff. But Jim, a nice spin with a lot of your female creations, Nebula and Gamora.
I didn't treat them.
Forgive me, I thought you had.
I think it was Mark Bruno.
Oh, is he?
I only tortured Nebula. I was offended by the whole idea of Thanos having offspring. So as soon as I got a hold of her, merciless. I'm really kind of embarrassed by the way I treated her at this point.
Decomposing alien.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I look back at that and I'm going, how misanthropic I've been.
Oh, it's okay. I respect that, absolutely.
Yeah, but Gamora was around, and I did a lot with Moondragon too.
Indeed, Moondragon's a great character, absolutely.
Keep waiting for her to show up.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
I'm hoping Pip comes first.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to write to Kevin Peachy and tell him you want to Pip movie.
That sounds good. More questions from the audience? Way in the back, sir. Or miss? Sir? Yeah, you, sir.
I'm just curious, I'm a big fan of both your guys' work. I've been a huge fan for a long time with Mr. Starlin, with your creation of Thanos and everything like that. And I know
Whoever strikes first. Simple as that. Next question.
Yes, sir. In the hat. Yep.
Yeah, I just have a question for Mr. Starlin. What do you think about how Thanos was portrayed in Infinity War?
I love it. I mean, I'm still having a little trouble with those pupils. But, you know, they brought me down to the set before the movie came out. We talked things. There was no surprises. I never expected to be a carbon copy of the book because half the characters aren't there in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think they just did a wonderful job. Josh Brolin, who was never on my radar as Thanos, now I can't imagine anybody else doing him. What can I tell you? Everybody here loved it, so why should I be any different?
And you were saying last night that he really loves the character.
Yeah, he's lobbying to get into the Eternals movie. He wants to play Thanos again.
Don't you think they'll kill him off at some stage, Thanos? Well, he's already dead, so why not?
Yeah, well, we gotta get through this next movie, and we can't talk about what happens to him during that movie, or the mouse comes along and breaks my kneecap.
For real.
Sir.
Yes, I have a question for Roy. Speaking of the movies, since the new Captain Marvel movie is going to feature like pre-Civil War background, have you been involved? Have they invited you to the set or anything like that at all for the next?
What, you mean,
the Captain
consult with me or something? Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Yeah.
No, they just take the stuff and do what they want to and send me a small check occasionally, and I'm very happy, I go see the movies and see what they do with them. Sometimes I like it, and sometimes I don't. Mostly I do. I may quibble with particular details or, like some things more than others.
Like the pupils.
Yeah, like when they did Ultron, who's my favorite Avengers villain. He didn't look like, didn't look as much as I would have liked him to, the version that I particularly had done in there. I would have liked that, but other than that, and the fact that, I wasn't as wild about the plot, some of the aspects of the plot, I didn't think I knew exactly what Ultron was trying to accomplish. But the general feel of that villain and the way the writing and James Spader in the reading of the part was just, to me, flawless, everything. The only thing I don't like is thinking of it as a minion of Thanos, but I guess everybody was a minion of Thanos, even Loki was a minion of Thanos, so.
That's true.
It was very funny when the first movie came out. I ran into Roy at a convention, and you mentioned something about Thanos at the end of the thing. And said, yeah, that's pretty cool. And you turned to me and you went very seriously. I'm pretty sure you weren't serious, but you went very seriously. It should have been Ultron. The very next movie, it was Ultron.
I was probably serious, but not that I didn't think Thanos, also made a great villain, but to me, Ultron became sort of, by accident. It was intended to be my idea of what, of a good villain. But they're both good. They both got their shot. In my case, I guess due to Joss Whedon, who particularly wanted to do it. There was nothing inevitable about Ultron and even the Vision, especially Ultron being a part of the second movie, and that was one of his conditions for doing it. Who was the person who got Thanos started? Because that was was it also?
Yeah, Whedon,
Yeah,
remember,
it was before.
2-in-1 Man, and he threw it in. And he just recently said he had no idea what he was going to do with that. He said, I had absolutely no concept of it. I figured I'd work myself into a corner. Fortunately, he left the movies, and so the other guys, the Russians took care of it from there.
Yeah.
But, we both know Whedon.
So let us see who's left to be if they do another Avengers movie after that, who will be
The next big bag.
the next big bag. The next
Yeah, of course it can. Absolutely.
There's many wonderful Avengers villains to be. Of course, I haven't, seen everyone.
And with time travel,
Kang would be great. He could be Dr. Doom or he could not be Dr. Doom.
well, that's true.
Yeah.
But with time travel, you can even maybe go back to some of the great Golden Age characters, which would be kind of interesting too.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it.
I know. Roy and I know what's with them.
I'm waiting for the Fox deal and having Galactus come back into the
Of course, yes.
Mr. Cloud.
Yeah, he should like the same, whatever the villain was from the Green Lantern movie, he was the same guy. The two members clouds fight each other and produce a big star.
Oh, that's a really scary scary, puffy villain.
Two mistakes of the same kind by two different studios.
Sponsored by the Weather Channel. Absolutely. Miss, in the back with glasses, yes, miss.
Okay. I love Infinity Watch, Mr. Starlin. It's one of my favorite stories. And I just wanted to know why, when you split the gauntlet and gave everyone a gem, did you know who you wanted to give it to personally? Like, did you know?
Yeah, I made those choices. So somewhere along the line, I figured out I knew what I was doing. But no, they were all characters that I had been associated with in the past, and they were just people that I thought would work together interestingly because they wouldn't work together well. And, you know, I just had to go somewhere with them, and so splitting them up what seemed like the best idea. And as you remember from the first issue, Warlock gives them away and then goes, "You're on your own," and left. And so it was going to be a book that worked against expectations from the start.
So,
How did you end up with Warlock?
yes, I'm glad you asked that. Let's get into Warlock.
I had left Marvel and Captain Marvel and gone over to DC for a while and came back, talked to this gentleman here one afternoon, and he said, "Why don't you go home and figure out what you want to do next?" And I had a box of comics back in my apartment, and he was another beautiful Gil Kane design character. So I went back there the next day, and you just told me to go at it.
Yeah?
And I sat down that night and drew the first page.
Yeah, because the Warlock, I wish I had, in my own way, I wanted to continue the version Gil and I had done with the counter kind of thing. I enjoyed it. But once I wasn't doing it anymore, it kind of ran out of steam. There was no sense in, trying to perpetuate that if you had another idea. I think the only thing I ever disagreed was you wanted to take the lightning bolt off it.
I got off as quickly as possible. That's so hard to draw.
As soon as possible was probably about 3 minutes after I left as editor-in-chief, probably. I don't know how much you
It was the second issue.
Maybe the second issue, okay. But, but it was really interesting because it was such a cosmic thing, and I didn't have to wrestle with, am I going to have trouble with Stan over all this religious stuff he wants to do, because I'm gone. Let Marv Wolfman wrestle.
And they were so busy keeping, getting used to their job that nobody paid any attention.
Yeah, by the time Len got used to it, he's gone, then Marv is in it, so you could sort of were on your own and everything. And eventually it became a real, classic series of books. I mean, it always was, just took a while. Right? The other thing is, I know this for a fact that, and this is not to you like had worse sellers, but it wasn't even a good seller.
Oh, no.
Gary Conger, when he was in there for about 3 weeks as editor-in-chief, he told me that he looked up sales figures, it sold less than Golden, which was a series that had followed. But it doesn't matter, because in the long run, it's been a huge hit. Because, with all the reprintings and everything that's come out of it, and you can't, at one time, the only judgment we had was, what did it sell this month, and then we're on to the next, if it didn't sell this month, and this issue was a failure forever. Nowadays, you can look at the long picture and say Warlock, was a huge hit.
Do you remember why it eventually got canceled, though? I mean,
No,
I
no,
quit the
no.
book, but they ran out of paper in Canada from the company, and they had to cancel like 3 or 4 books at the time.
What is this, 70 what?
I'm not good at years.
All right.
But I remember the Lord of Worlds got canceled, Warlock got canceled, I'm sure Gollum must have been there too.
Well, Gollum was gone. Wow.
So maybe Gollum was gone, but there was about 3 or 4 books that they canceled just because there was no paper to do it.
Probably Red Sonja and the Invaders.
Jeez. I want to ask you guys about Epic Illustrated, because when, beyond and also the black and white period as well, the magazines, because a lot of cosmic stuff, Star-Lord came from the black and white magazines, of course, and Epic Illustrated I always thought was cool, and I don't know how much you guys contributed to that portion of Marvel Cosmic, but I always thought that was really ambitious, world-building storytelling and
You
stuff.
were gone.
By Epic.
Archie was the editor, and so the shooter who put Archie
Okay.
into that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure that the story.
Well, I had stuff in it. I had stuff in it. I had an Elmer
Yes.
adaptation in it, and then I did a 4-part adaptation of Almeric, the novel by Robert E. Howard, which was sort of half Conan and half John Carter of Mars.
Cool.
But that was really my only. I never just tried to submit anything else to it.
Okay.
And Dreadstar started it in the first issue
Of course, yes.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
Metamorphosis.
Smattering of applause for
And by the way, I would take this moment to shamelessly plug the fact that next year, about at this time, I will have a complete collection of all the Dread Star stories I ever wrote. I was horrified to find out it's over 1,200 pages. So next year at this time, I'm working through color corrections at this point.
That's awesome. Honestly, again, a really significant period, that 80s black and white period and stuff was amazing. And forgive me if it wasn't always black and white, but I was considered part of that era, Dread Star and everything. Just yeah.
Was the Dread Star in black and white part, or was it all color?
It started off in 3 sections of Metamorphosis Odyssey, black and white. Archie needed color fill in because it wasn't enough pages, it became color. Then I did another black and white in Price.
I thought it was black and white.
Yeah,
There's a lot of black and white, and it will stay that way when it comes out.
Now, you don't want to feel like color.
No, it's really what it is.
Yeah, keep it pure, absolutely.
Because it went through all sorts of different stages. It was painted, we went up to ink, we had that hand separation stuff where we were first, where they had that experimental strange coloring thing.
Yes.
And so on.
There was the anime.
Yeah, so all the different versions that were kind of a part of the whole strangeness of the
Absolutely. No question. Way in the back, sir, with the beard.
On the subject of Dread Star, what about Metamorphosis Odyssey, where all this kind of springs from? Infinity Horn, battle between the Assyrians and the Zygots, the fact that the Assyrian created man, cold man, the wielder of the sword, never really truly trusted him, and then becomes a hero when they destroy the Milky Way, and he goes off to another galaxy. I mean, it's kind of an interesting sort of, you're building a mythology there that hasn't really been seen until Neil Gaiman started doing similar things with American gods. So what inspired you to do Metamorphosis Odyssey? What was the impetus? Is it so rich in its philosophical and its moral facets?
drugs. Seriously, it was, it was just, I like complicated stories, I like complicated characters. Batman's much more interesting to write than Superman. The quirkier they are, the more interesting it is where you can take them. And Dread Star was a guy who started off tremendous amount of guilt, contradictory motivations as you go through. His parents were killed by polar bears, and in response, he decimates the entire population of the polar bear cat on this planet before he's driven off. So he's not a hero. He's just a very tough guy with very complicated motivations, and I just found it interesting doing it that way.
Okay, we got time for probably one more question. Sir, go ahead.
Did the Dread Star saga ever come to a close when you sit here and have float through your face? Because I never followed it to the end. I really not the first one.
Yeah, we have a bit of a closing on a lot of the characters, left some things open. Peter David did some writing on it afterwards where some of the core characters went off. I'll be leaving it like that. We're probably not going to go into the Peter David stuff in this collection because legal complications. But basically, a number of the characters like Ultraviolet, Syzygy, and a couple other ones came to the complete end of their story. So choosing this particular run will give it a nice ending to, it'll give it a package that feels like it's complete. So that's why I've chosen those.
All right, Captain America, close us out.
Are there any key characters or stories that you had thought about or developed at some point in your career as Roy and Jim? Marvel, DC, anywhere that you never got to do and you just wish you had done at some point?
In my case, I'd like to write about 500 more issues of All-Star Squadron. And other than those to be things, I don't really think in those terms that much anymore. I just read history nowadays.
I had a Submariner story I wanted to do for Marvel after 9/11, but it wasn't patriotic enough, and so they just let me sit around for a year and a half and never approved it.
gentlemen, thank you for your world building. Thank you for your